Okay, what's up? I'm gonna review the Evil Dead. Just the first one. This one, I don't even know. I think that's more of a stylized poster. It's cool. The Evil Dead is one of the kinds of movies that is like not a guilty pleasure. I don't think there's such a thing as a guilty pleasure to me. It doesn't make sense. Who cares if you're guilty or not? You don't need to feel guilt. That's unnecessary. But it's like a movie that's really down my alley. I like over the top horror that doesn't take itself too seriously. It is kind of cool because it's Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness have much more like obvious comedy to them, whereas the Evil Dead is a bit more of a pure horror movie, and it works. It doesn't let up too much, but it still has this undercurrent. It's you can't take it too seriously. I guess the budget is too low. Um, I was a bit. It wasn't as scary as I remembered. I think I actually remember finding it quite scary when I watched it, like maybe 10 or 15 years ago. But this time it didn't really scare me. I still really liked it though. I thought it was very good. Let's see, where can I start? It's very fast paced. Right at the start, I liked it. It reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I thought was all right. That movie definitely has some effective horror aspects that I respected that I thought were pretty cool, but it has some very boring starting parts, which seems to be the thing with a lot of horror movies. Even Hostel, I thought was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I absolutely hate that movie. It has just elongated torture scenes. There's a reason we cut away from torture in movies because you don't need to see it. It doesn't. Nothing's happening. It's just disturbing. If your aim is to make the audience feel sick and vomit, then that's not a good aim to have. On the other hand, The Evil Dead has over the top violence, but it never feels real. It's exaggerated. It's a deliberate thing. It somehow it works, and it's also the pacing of it. The reason I brought up Hostel is because I feel like the first hour is just stupid. Nothing happens. I just remember like it's bad in multiple ways, like different layers and levels of ways. And it doesn't have like a story. Sorry, yeah, and in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, similarly, it seems to have these long parts that are just kind of weird, whereas The Evil Dead just goes before we know the characters at all. We get a weird, stylized, the camera's on an angle, it's close up, things look almost grainy. I think it's a really good example where the style of the movie, which wasn't necessarily a choice, it's just low budget, actually adds to the creepiness. There's probably a few other horror movies that do this. Maybe even like the Blair Witch Project, which I think is okay. I'm not a huge fan. I don't really like it that much, but I think it's all right. Um, but yeah, it actually uses that. I think if it was a bigger budget movie, it wouldn't be as scary. It's creepy. And it really gives this evil, invisible sort of force, a lot of personality, but always on the borderline between being laugh out loud, funny, and stupid, and like sincere and scary. Because it's just the sounds are so weird. They're like these low guttural, whatever. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. It's very cool. And then yeah, just these weird close-ups of cars, and like it sets up some tension straight away. And then after that, as soon as there's a near, scary little event, you can connect to the characters more. And then they talk a bit, and it's a bit of that cliched. It's interesting. The Evil Dead has some of those cliched moments. They do stupid things that get them into trouble, you could say, but somehow it doesn't seem as annoying as most other movies because of this style and because it's quite fast. Also because of Bruce Campbell. I actually really like him. I think he's funny, and he jokes about not being necessarily a great actor, but like it works. It works. I like the change in his character as well. He's actually a really nice, decent guy. I think that's very important. The best horror movies or the best movies have a character in the middle that you like. If you don't like them, it just ruins it. You can't enjoy it as much. So, and yeah, you see his innocence sort of, you know, there's a part where he's holding an axe and he's just feeling sick and seeing things, and it's like, but he has to eventually follow through and do other things and become more violent, especially I guess in the sequels. But um, okay, I'm not sure what else to talk about. The music is kind of weird as well and low budget, but again, it works. I kind of like it because it's strange. It's really strange, and that's off-putting, and that it's unique. It doesn't feel like cliched, which is good. I really like Sam Raimi's style. It's more fresh and exciting. I don't know how many horror movies had been made up to that point, 1981. I'm sure heaps, but like what kinds of horror movies? How much of what happens in the movie is cliched and like because a lot of it has become really cliched. But I was thinking about this. If you really like a certain kind of movie and you get to make it for the first time, there's, I think, an excitement, a freshness that can come through, and I think that happens with this movie. It doesn't. Sam Raimi seems to be like excited, or that's the impression I get. This is not just a by the numbers movie. Hello. Yeah, I lost track of what I was saying, but I mean, Sam Raimi went on to make Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, which I thought were very good overall. Especially Spider-Man 2 has some things that seem to refer when Doc Ock sort of wakes up in a hospital. That's very reminiscent of his Evil Dead days or movies. Yeah, there's some really over-the-top violence. It's not appropriate for kids at all. I'm sure there are some people who are gonna be like, "Well, I've seen way more violent films like that. Like that's it's a competition. Like that's a good thing. Like, I'm comfortable watching extreme violence. That's not a good thing. Yeah, but anyway, I think the way it's done works. It's a subtle thing. Its tone, the movie just doesn't quite seem to completely take itself too seriously, which is really, really critically important. It's a fun movie. It's over the top. It seems to be playing with that. It's torturing Ash in a way that it's torturing us and playing around with we're at the whim of the filmmakers, but they don't pretend like that's not the case. They know this concept is stupid, but they give it lots of personality and creativity. You couldn't just call it a zombie movie, even if aspects of it are similar to that. The way the characters kind of become possessed, they're like just crazy and evil and changed color. Their faces like blue and weird eyes, or laughing hysterically. It wasn't clear to me what the rules with that were, because I thought Bruce Campbell, Ash gets scratched in the leg, so why wouldn't he become a zombie? Or is that that's a mistake, or it's just at the whim of the Evil Dead? I mean, the Evil Dead seems to get him at the end anyway, which I find so hysterical. Like, there's no rules, it just all of a sudden comes through, smashes through this door, yeah! I just find it funny. Another thing I didn't completely like is I just felt like I got the idea. I felt like he should have been a bit more proactive. Like he could have, like I know that Evil Dead things were like playing with him and tricking him. Like his girlfriend kind of comes back, and it's kind of touching that he carries her out, locks her down, and he's about to chop her, then just really can't do it. He's reminded there is a weird sadness and beauty to it as well, that he really did love her, give her a little amulet or something, and then then what happens is pretty terrible, and that part seems to come across as silly. But yeah, I still feel like he needed to be a bit, there's this inefficiency where he's like digging a hot grave for her, and then he ends up letting the one that's underground out, which it's a bit crazy. How can it break? It was chained down. Like, how loose was that it could just break like that? The attic, or what is it called? Not the attic, the cellar underground. Yeah, I just think he should have been more efficient. I think maybe Evil Dead 2 improves on some of this stuff where, yeah, he should have just killed them. Like, just grab the chainsaw, kill each of them, and just accept, what can we do? I'm in this situation, all these crazy things are happening to me. Can't escape. It's just the best thing to do. But yeah, instead he's sort of waiting and seems unsure, and then because of that, everything becomes much more dangerous for him. It's a bit of a cliche that his friend, the other guy, kind of presses the tape and keeps it playing. There's enchanting things to make the Evil Dead come alive, but I guess that happens in a lot of movies. They didn't know that was going to happen. I could probably easily end up being like that other guy. I would be the kind of person who's like, come on, you really believe this, and just play it to get on the nerves of other people who I think are idiots. But that's because I'm in the real world. I mean, in the real world, that stuff's not going to happen. So, I really liked some of the special effects, especially near the end. Some of the really weird kind of like, I think it's like stop motion animation, but then also some makeup effects and stuff. The woman that ends up in the woods and what happens to her with all the things. Again, it was kind of like, I think the first time I saw it, I was like, what? It's kind of a weird experience, but I don't think it's a bad thing. That's what the movie is. It's sort of extreme. I mean, they call it a grueling, what is it? The ultimate experience in grueling terror, something like that, which in some ways is pretty accurate, except it's low budget and I don't find it that scary anymore. But it's effective, this evil force that you never know where it's going to go or what it's capable of. And yeah, it's really that the sound effects again are kind of cheap but weird. It's like buzzing bees or something, and then I forget what other sounds there are. That's another thing that's part of the comedy, is that some of the sound effects really don't fit in. They're like, kind of like cartoon sound effects, like whoop. There's a part where something gets pulled out of an arm, out of a leg, out of one of the zombies, and heaps of blood or something pours out. Lots of blood ends up going on Ash as well. It's over the top. You have to find some of that pretty funny, although it also works for horror. I like that ambiguity actually. But yeah, I definitely heard some sound effects that were like, that's like a bottle being popped open or something, or I think maybe some of the bits of branches whoosh, 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 like it's just kind of lame. So I just found that kind of funny. It made it seem more cartoonish. But I think that's almost more disturbing in a way. If you've got this evil force and it's just having a joke with you, it's just a game to wit. It's going to kill you anyway, but it's just like a crazy cartoon situation from the evil's point of view. Like another example is I had a distinct memory when I saw that pencil. I was like, oh, wait a minute. She grabs this pencil and stabs it, and it just doesn't look real at all, into the ankle, and it's get moved around, and it's like, okay, you're really trying to affect us. You got the woman screaming, and you got it moving around, all this like blood coming out, and it's pretty detailed or whatever, like, but it doesn't really look real at all, and but that has to be funny in some way. I remember when I saw Hostel at the cinemas, and there are scenes of just basically torture, which is like awful. Like, why would you make a movie about that? But I actually laughed because not just out of like an awkwardness of like, I don't know how to do. I was like, are you serious? I was laughing like, how is this? I felt bad that other people are watching and like, I don't know how they're reacting. Like, maybe they're disturbed and like, someone could really get psychologically, messed up from a movie like that if they're too young. I mean, it's rated R, Hostel, and The Evil Dead, I'm assuming, is probably rated R in America. In Australia, I don't know about America, we have different rating systems. But like, yeah, I laughed because it was ridiculous. I think anything too over the top. But the difference is where Hostel, I don't think was meant to be funny. It was just a piece of crap, I thought. Just complete garbage. The Evil Dead is intended to be funny. It has its tongue-in-cheek the whole way through, but still works as a horror. So I think it's compulsory watching. If you like horror movies, you have to see it, as long as you're not too off-put by over-the-top violence. Again, I'm sure it's tame compared to some things, but it's very funny, very cool how far it goes, and very creative overall. I think for its budget, it's really effective. Anyway, and it's, again, one of my sort of personal favorite movies that I just enjoy. I like that kind of a movie. It's just an experience, it's like a roller coaster. The idea of a roller coaster is for it to be as like scary as possible, to be as, oh my god, we're going down, then roll to the, but you're safe, and it's a movie, you're safe, you can't get hurt, and there's still a subtle balance, even with the pretty disturbing parts, with the parts that take it pretty far. They still don't cross a certain line. It's not too much, and I think that's important, whereas other movies like Hostel just don't have a line, and it's stupid, and it misses the point of what horror movies should be. Anyway, so I'll leave it there, I think. I don't want to talk forever. So Evil Dead, I don't know what I'd give it. Maybe 9 out of 10. Again, it's the sort of movie I really like. I'm keen to watch the other two at some stage soon. Okay, bye.